Mid-October.
Okay.
Oh. I have a book event in Botswana.
In Botswana?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, they're coming in fast and furious, eh?
Yeah.
The invitations.
Is it your first book?
Yeah.
Nice.
It is.
Who's publishing it for you?
Hashib.
Okay.
Yeah. It came out 26th of June here in New York.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, oh, we're on. Okay. So, okay. I'm Grant Schreiber of Real Leaders magazine, and I'm here talking to Ndaba Mandela, Nelson Mandela's grandson. And he's here in New York today at the Concordia Summit, and I would like to ask him, he has a huge pair of shoes to fill in terms of his legacy, and I'm wanting to ask him, how are you filling that legacy?
Well, you know, the most important thing is that our grandfather never pushed us in any direction, but really wanted us to be educated. And so, because I grew up with my grandfather, his values became my own. You know, he transferred those in a very natural way as he, you know, raised me. So for us, we started a foundation called Africa Rising, which is all about youth empowerment in the space of education, technology, entrepreneurship development, and celebrating African culture. Because for us, we believe that we should all try to make sure that the next generation is better than the previous one. And for us, Africans need to be able to come to the table and to be able to be seen as equal, valued partners in the global conversation.
I heard an amazing fact earlier today that there are almost 1 billion people in Africa who are open to employment. It's a huge potential. It
is a huge potential, which means that we have a huge challenge. So, you know, and most of those people are youth. You know, you're talking about people under the age of 35. So it is important that young people have the necessary access to information, access to them to be able to train themselves or to be trained by an organization, by people such as Africa Rising organization, so they can have the necessary tools to break the cycle of poverty, which is one of the things that always holds our people back. It's also a huge sort of opportunity for people like places like America who are looking for young talents to come and join their companies. For China, for the rest of the world, really. So we're really excited about the future that the world holds for the youth of Africa.
Right. Could your grandfather ever have seen the legacy he was leaving behind and the inspiration and where it would lead?
Well, I think my grandfather really was a man who was focused on the job at hand. You know, being a good leader, taking care of the people. And, you know, because this year we're celebrating 100 years of Nelson Mandela's life, I actually wrote a book called Going to the Mountain, Lessons from My Grandfather, to celebrate and give an ode to my grandfather, because I think it's important in the world that we're living in to remind our world of the importance of peace and reconciliation and the message that Nelson Mandela brings home. And one of the most important messages for me that he brings home is that regardless of your sex, your race, your age, or your demographic in society, we all have the potential to achieve greatness. And of course, I go into much more lessons in the book talking about the great man.
Right. Could you share one of those lessons? What's the greatest lesson you ever learned from your grandfather?
One of the greatest lessons, which you as a South African, I know you're familiar with,
right,
is that a person is not, if a person can be taught to hate, a person can be taught to love. Because love comes much more natural to the human condition than hate.
Right.
Right?
So we're living in a very fractured world right now. Who would have imagined that America would be so divided as it is politically? What advice would you give for the world and for America in terms of healing itself from a leadership perspective?
I think healing begins with us coming to the table and having a conversation. I think if we cannot have a conversation about what has transpired, what has happened, then it leaves us very little hope of what we can achieve going forward. If you look at the example of South Africa, we had a moment in time when we had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where people were given amnesty for them being able to come and tell exactly what happened when they were committing those atrocities, whether it was on their own accord or being directed by the government, right? We were able to come together and chat and talk honestly about some of the atrocities and criminal activities and tragedies that took place. So I think it all begins with a conversation. America has not been able to have a conversation. Right. If we can come up with a way where we can take ordinary families, even through our digital age, because we're in a digital age, and we can create a situation where families can have dinner on a virtual reality level, right? Because we all know that that conversation can be very hard. So we are in the age of technology. So aren't we using our technology to take families from very different backgrounds to have that hard discussion about the history of this country and how we can move forward as one united people.
Right. And South Africa, of course, was known as the Rainbow Nation. Does South Africa still have lessons to teach the world, do you think?
I think South Africa still has some lessons to teach the world, because as much as we went through truth and reconciliation, we are still going through some of the emotions, right? We're not completely healed, right? We're not completely in a state of utopia, right? There are still challenges that we face. We recently were facing a large challenge of leadership recently, right? Thank God we have a new president, right? Right now, there's a big question at hand about the land, right? How do we share the land in an equitable way, in a fair manner, where everybody can enjoy the land and not feel that it was taken away from them, or you getting something for free, you don't deserve it. So that's a big conversation that's happening right now. And again, it starts with a conversation.
And one last question. What advice would you give to the youth of today?
To the youth of today, I'll tell them to dream big. Dream big because you are the masters of your destiny.
Great. Thank you. Ndaba, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.